Hello and welcome to the Skating Lesson Podcast. I'm Jennifer Kirk, a former U.S. ladies competitor and a 3-time world team member.
I'm David Lees. I wasn't a national champion like today's guest. I was never a world champion. I've never been on Wide World of Sports, but I am a figure skating blogger and a current adult skater.
If you have any questions or comments at all during this podcast, you can feel free to send us an email to theskatinglesson@gmail.com. And Dave and I are thrilled for today's guest. She is a skater that I grew up watching tapes of back in the 80s. She talked about Wide World of Sports, and she is somebody who is just an inspiration to so many in the sport and outside of the sport as well.
Yes, today we're absolutely delighted to welcome Elaine Zayak to the Skating Lesson Podcast. Elaine is, of course, the 1981 national champion, the 1982 world champion, a 3-time world medalist, and the 1984 Olympian. And she turned a lot of heads with her inspiring comeback at the 1994 Nationals. And we are absolutely thrilled to discuss all of it with Elaine today. So, Elaine, it's such a thrill to have you on the show. I feel like I've grown up around you my entire life. I know that you live in Rivervale now. I live in Montvale right down the road. So it's very exciting to have you. I skate at Fritz Dietl, your picture's there. I used to skate at Sportorama and see that mural of you doing a triple toe. So it's very exciting. We're thrilled to have you.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I can't believe it. We're both like Jerseyite people. I love it. So nice to meet you.
Yes, so you recently came back from Nationals where your student Jimmy Ma earned their pewter medal in junior men's. Tell us about coaching Jimmy and getting to this accomplishment.
Well, I've been working with Jimmy Ma for about 4 years now, and it was so thrilling and exciting for me as his only coach to get him to this point because of the fact that he has struggled with performance in the last 2 years, once last year at Nationals, with his, training of, landing jumps under pressure, which is so hard for newcomers these days. So to land everything in both programs this year, in short and long, I was so happy and so thrilled. And to get the pewter medal against, the novice national champion, the junior national champion, that was so great. To be third in the long program, I couldn't ask for anything more. And it was just like the highlight of my year for sure, and one of the most memorable times of my life as a coach.
I'm sorry.
That's a tough field. So are you more nervous standing at the boards than you were competing, or how does it compare?
I think definitely I feel now I'm so much more nervous at the boards, but yet when I'm standing at the boards, I know that feeling that I had, especially in 1994, how stressful it was for me and how my legs were shaking. And I know the smell of the air is even nerve-wracking. So to me, I did not want to be back in those moments on the ice. But I do know after the first 2 jumps of my program, I felt at ease. I knew I had confidence, I could do it. But watching someone's program that you're training every day, you just don't lose that, stress until the end spin, until they're done. And so it was a lot longer of stress in my heart. It was like coming out of my chest. But I knew at the end, he was just like me. Once you're on, you're on. And I was screaming and saying, "You got this." And it was just so emotional and great that he, finally did it.
So, Elaine, what do you tell Jimmy when he's nervous before a competition? Because like you talk about, when you were competing, those moments right before you step on the ice are the hardest of any competitor's life. So what do you tell him? What do you say? What are those words of wisdom?
I think every skater that I have trained at Nationals and even at Worlds, is different. Girls are different than guys, so it depends on the skater really at that moment. I never really wanted to hear too much from any of my coaches. I do not believe that one thing your coach is going to say to you is going to just make the difference. And I do know that I had told him in the past to make sure you train the hardest you can. So when you stand in the middle of the ice before your music goes on, that you can say to yourself, I am ready and I have trained this and I'm going to make it happen because I know I can. So I know you don't have to say too much. And I don't think he was the type of person that I needed to say too much to. But I did say, you've done this before, you can do it again, and this is what you dreamed of, so go get it. Go attack and get it, what you want.
you have such a positive attitude, and for so many, when they look back on your career, they see you as just the definition of determination and overcoming adversity. As a child, you suffered an accident where you lost some of your feet, or some of your toes in a lawnmower accident. How did that accident affect your skating career, and how has it affected your life off the ice?
I don't know how many people do know, especially now, like it's another era of my life, but I do know I wanted to talk about my foot and my accident. Some people do know by reading it on the internet, but most people really don't know exactly what it entailed. And my feeling is now I do want to talk about it because it can help so many people overcome adversity. And I've met so many people, young girls, that have lost toes, lost limbs, and are, disfigured. And I consider myself one of those people because of the fact that I only have 2 toes and half of my foot is gone. It's not just my toes, it's all the way down to my heel. It's been, somewhat of a selfish thing not to say anything, but now as I'm older, I really feel like I wish I knew somebody that was a world champion and been in the Olympics, and who would ever think that I, as half a foot, could be in the Olympics and a world champion. So I want to help people and let them know that I would be there for them to help them in any way. And just know now that if you really believe in something, no matter what problems you may have, if you really have the determination, you can do it. And I did, and I felt like I'm not going to worry about what people think or say or do, but I'm going to make it happen. And I think it really helped me overcome sometimes fear. So I'm like willing to let everyone know if I can do it, they can.
So how much did that accident affect you on the ice?
Well, when I was in the Olympics, most importantly, not so much that time, but every time we did the school figures. And when I always drew like the left foot, that's what foot was hard for me, because the balance on the left foot was so much harder for me than the right foot, because I also, would lean to the outside. I lost the 3rd point of balance because I didn't have my pinky toe. It was just very hard for me to balance. So I do think that had an effect, but I do know that I trained a lot to make it strong and make it as best as I could. But to me, if I'm going to do the sport, you got to do it the best you can and not really, make people think like, oh, I don't feel sorry for me. I don't want that. I went into the sport because of my foot, because I didn't want to walk with a limp. And that's what doctor said. Do the roller skating or ice skating for therapy. And so this is what I chose. And I never really wanted anyone to feel like, oh, well, because of my half a foot, I wasn't going to be able to do this. So it didn't really bother me too much, but it was a little bit more difficult, I would say, than most people.
So I recently chatted with your first coach, Lorraine Nelson, at Fritz Dietl, and she told me that you're naturally oriented to actually jump the other way, that you're actually should be a clockwise jumper, but that she had you land on your other foot to avoid that foot. What was it like learning to skate as a kid? Was it a huge obstacle during those therapy times, or how did you adapt compared to the other kids?
Well, I do remember only from looking at videotapes and hearing a lot of stories from my past, because I started skating when I was 3 years old. So, of course, I don't think anybody 3, 4, or 5 remembers exactly what they did. But I do know, looking at my skates, and they didn't have any double runners, but my skate always collapsed on the one foot. Like it, after a while I would just, fall in. It would sink in because there's nothing to support it. But I do know that I definitely probably would have wanted to maybe jump the other way, but I definitely would not have been able to land correctly. There's just no way I think that would have happened. And that's why, you use what you have. Like if you don't have, one arm, you use a lot of things to do with the other arm. And, that's the way I saw it. You use what you have. And I think because I was so young that I only started walking when I was like 1.5 years old. So it was kind of like, that's what I only knew. I knew how to work it with the way I had only known. And to me, it inspired a lot of, things that I wanted to do and become. I wanted to prove to people I could do it, because a lot of people, especially, Fritz Steedle, said she'll never be able to skate, not on that foot. So it was kind of ironic that, like 20 years later, I won the world championships, and he was there to see it. And it was just a magical moment to be there with him and have him there. And people may say that because, who would ever think that someone who has half a foot could jump like I did and skate like I did? But maybe things happen for a reason, and I do believe that in life with everything that happens to people.
There are stories at the rink about they used to have a show, and it was called Deedlemania, and they said that at the end, they would have all the skaters come, and that Fritz would call out a move, and basically when everyone would stop being able to do the move, they would, get off the center of the ice, and that it would be Elaine Zayak at like 5 years old and all of the top level skaters, doing your version of a flying camel or whatever, but you were the most determined one, they said at the rink, out there, always, so...
I have a lot of memories, and a lot of people that I have met through the social media have told me so many stories about things. And I guess my, life started out tragically, but it really empowered me to be, noticed and not be hindered by my disfigurement. So I wanted to prove to everyone I could do more. And so I always was the first one to step up and say, I could do that. And when I watched the guys skate in our rink, and I just wanted to do what they were doing. I was like a little tomboy that just they were doing triples. I'm like, I can do that. I just wanted to prove to everybody that I could do everything that anybody else could do. And to me, there was a judge that's the head of the association now, Larry Munshine. And if you talk to him, he remembers so many stories about me in our childhood. And he was such a great mentor to me. And still to this day, he has reminded me of so many adversities that I have overcome that I don't even remember. And he really was an inspiration, because he would push me. And he knew my, accident wasn't easy for me. But he was just such a brilliant person in the way of talking to me like no person could. And I did it because I wanted to prove that I could do it, not only for myself, but because, I think some people might have thought like I couldn't do it. So I didn't want that to happen.
Well, you definitely did it, Elaine. You were great. And you're one of the first amazing stars of ABC's Wide World of Sports. And you were unique because you got a lot of attention before you ever won a world title or made an Olympic team. And you were so young. So how at such a young age were you able to handle all of that attention?
I didn't really think it was so much that it was my age. I never thought about the factor of how old I was, because my goal in my mind was always to be the best. Because I guess of my injury and my accident with the lawnmower made me want to succeed. And also, I was always thinking I wasn't going to be able to walk right, so I had to skate more. So I skated all the time. And to me, it just worked in my favor to get really good at such a young age, because I started very young. But at 13, to be junior world and junior national champion, I think inside me, really, it was just overwhelming to even have that happen. But then to be on national television with Dick Button, and I think he was from New Jersey. Us New Jerseyites always feel like this is such a great deal, to have this happen, that I wanted not only the people from New Jersey to really be inspired and like me. I did it for the world, and going forward, it really had nothing to do with wanting to be on TV, but only for the fact that I do believe that it was meant to be, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about my beliefs and how to be open about your feelings and, let it all out like us Jersey people do.
Well, you talk about winning a world junior title at 13. The following year, you went to the Olympic trials and you placed fourth, and it was kind of a controversial result. Many people believed you should have been named to the Olympic team. Looking back on it now, did you feel that the judges may have been holding you back a bit?
In 1980?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were ready for me. That was the whole problem. I don't think they knew what to do because no girl has ever done six. I think I did 6 triples. And to me, that's what I wanted to prove, is that I'm not going to hold myself back just because no one else is doing it. I came out to succeed, to be like better than everyone else. So that was my way of showing it. I didn't really go out saying, I want to win, I want to be on the Olympic team. That wasn't my goal. It was to be better than everyone else. What came after that was whatever the judges wanted. But I absolutely was an alternate. I did go to Lake Placid. I experienced it. I definitely feel that I should have maybe been on that team, but I think it might have been too soon anyway. But I definitely do believe that it changed women's figure skating at that point. It was so controversial that at that moment it started changing. And then after I won the Worlds, it just was, everything was changed.
So in 1981, the expectations were really on you to win that national title, and you struggled in the short program only to come back in the long program and nail it. Now, this is something that happens several times throughout your career. Is it easy for you being the underdog and being that fighter? And why was the short program such a struggle for you sometimes at big competitions?
Well, I didn't really think that I always came back from the short program, but now that you mentioned it, I definitely did in the 2 most important competitions of my life. But I do think it was something that I learned from. So not skating well in the short was my mistake because maybe I was overly confident and I didn't focus. I just felt like I just was going to do it, and I learned from it. But I definitely think it was a learning experience, something I'll never forget. And I can teach that now, with other kids. And especially, in your mind, knowing that you are the best. You have to believe that even if you do make mistakes in a short program or in anything, you learn from it and you'll never have that happen again, because you can't learn unless you make mistakes. And I tell this to all my kids. To fall is to learn. To not have everything go well is to learn. And that's what makes a champion sometimes, because I do think, for me, having not gotten up from wherever place I was in, I would not have gone into the long program and been successful and land everything. You need some sort of inner soul searching to make it happen, and focus a little bit more and really be like over yourself and not being overly confident. So I learned from it, and I do think in the 84 and 94 nationals, I did not let that happen.
Now, you went on to finish second at the 81 Worlds, right behind Denise Spielman. After that finish, how much pressure did you feel to become the world champion the next year? Did you feel like it was your time?
I definitely felt like this was my year. I definitely may have, felt like, okay, all I have to do is just skate great. And I do know that I trained for that, and then, winning, second place at the Worlds gave me so much attention that I was doing so much more than training. I was doing so many TV shows, so many commercials and things that, I wasn't really prepared for, and not training as much. So that year was very difficult for me. But when I went to the nationals and knowing that I did well in the figures and then to have a little mistake in the short, it was very overwhelming to have a mistake happen so easily. And I do know that really it kind of made me feel like not good in the way of my mind, was not confident anymore. And so I lost a little bit of confidence, and that's something that, is very hard to get back. And then, of course, what happened in the long was just unbelievable to me, that I could never imagine. It was like I don't even remember too much about it, but it was a blur. But I just don't know what happened, because I've never, even after that national championship, ever did that again. But I think it was just a moment of inconsistency and not being confident about myself and determined enough because I was distracted by too many other things.
Elaine, you talk about some of the distractions after the 81 season. Did you feel any pressure, external pressure from either your parents or your coaches? And now that you had this spotlight on you, how were you able to keep your mind focused on the ice?
It was hard. I mean, a lot of things after I did win the Worlds, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, you talk about after the 81 season that when you placed second at the Worlds, that you had that focus now was from the press and the media and whatnot.
Yes, a lot of things happened. I got a lot of sponsorship. It was a little bit of pressure for sure. But I think there was a lot of personal issues going on with my family, my parents getting divorced, and my social life outside the skating world was not really focusing on the right issues for me, and I didn't really have anyone to turn to talk to. So I definitely think that was the main reason why that year did not go well, because I wasn't mature enough to handle it on my own. But I do think that I learned from it, and I never look back on that and never regret it. But it was something that I do think I wish I had a mentor that was a champion that could have taught me how to overcome all the adversity outside the ring. So I think that year was the reason why I did not skate well.
So you talk about those 1982 Nationals as being a really difficult competition for you. What was it like competing as the defending national champion and having to put your title on the line?
I didn't look at it like, oh, I'm the national champion, I'm here to win again. I actually felt like all I had to do was skate my programs the way I always do in practice, and I would win because of the fact that I had 6 or 7 triples, and I had more triples in my short, and so I never really worried about anyone else beating me. But I never really thought that I was going to make any mistakes. I always was very confident in myself because that's what my goal was in life, to be confident from what I learned in my past, that I was very shy and self-conscious about my foot. So I felt like now I got my confidence. I am here and I'm just going to skate and I'm going to do it. So I wasn't really worried. And I think maybe I should have had a little bit of nerves. I don't know, but I definitely think I was overly confident, and that was what did me in.
So you will forever be known as a world champion. Yet, in Elaine Zayak fashion, the 1980 Worlds proved to be a dramatic event on TV. After struggling in the short program, you had a breakdown before you competed your long program that day. What were you afraid of that night going out on the ice?
Of course, it was the same feeling only a month before at the Nationals, where I fell 3 times in the long program. How did that happen? And I trained really hard, so I'm like, how did that happen? I never did not train, but it just happens sometimes when you lose a little confidence. So to me, I felt like this is going to happen again, and I did not want to embarrass myself again and be put through that traumatic experience again. So knowing that I didn't miss something in the short, that, oh, here we go again. So it was just a replay in my mind. This is going to happen again because I don't have the confidence. How am I going to get that confidence back? And I broke down so many times that night, and I just said, I don't know what it was going to take for me to gain my confidence back, to go out there and skate a great program. I just did not feel it in my heart, in my soul. I was like, what am I going to do? And I had so many people come into my room, and like Fritz Dietl even came into my room, and he did actually give me some words of advice and say, you've come a long way in your life. Don't quit now. So that kind of really inspired me to know that a person that I knew from 3 years old said something like that. Not like, oh, you can do it. Like everybody's like, you can do it. I'm not wanting to hear that. All I wanted to hear is that you are a champion. You always will be. Don't go out as a quitter. And I was like, you're right. I got to just go out, and if I fail, I fail. But I cannot go out and just not try. So when I felt that, I said, you know what? I'm going to just do it now. I'm going to do it. Whatever I do, so be it. But I'm not going to just not do the long program and quit. Because I actually wanted to, but I thought in life, I'll always regret not knowing if I could have done it. And thank God for the fact that one person could have just said something from my past that you were never a quitter before. Why would you do it now? And that's the truth. Never doubt yourself. And thank God I decided to go out there the next day and do it. And it worked out well. And I think because I cried my eyes out the whole entire night and morning, I was so exhausted. I had no nerves really in me to get nervous about it. I was like, go for it, like go down hard or go strong. And I went for everything and it worked out great.
So take us back to that long program. Take us what we were thinking about when you were skating through it, catapulting from 7th after the short to win your world title.
Like I said just before, it was very dramatic, and I actually wish there was like social media and I could have recorded what I was thinking, because it was unbelievable what I went through. And to me, it was only me and myself putting myself through misery. I was putting the doom and gloom on myself for reasons that weren't necessary, because I was the champion. I was somebody that had won and made it, and I just felt like I was no good anymore because of the press and missing. And I wish that I could have maybe had a little bit more confidence, but I think in my life, always having people look at me, the kids, and I was young. So at 16, I did feel self-conscious still, and a little afraid of failing and having people look at me in a derogatory way. So most importantly, that was my fear. It wasn't of failing. It was that people will look at me like a lot of kids looked at me when they saw my foot. So I didn't really want to go in that place anymore, so I wanted to avoid it at any cost. And I didn't care about skating at that time. It was kind of more of an inner soul searching about how I didn't want to go to that point where people were like, oh, she's so bad. And, you know, in my mind, it was like, oh, like the kids are so vicious. Like, why do you have two toes? What's wrong with you? And so I kind of felt like, why am I not landing my jumps? It was like that whole scenario of, why can't I do it? And, you know, there's no reason for that. But, you know, you really, it's all mind over matter, mind over your body. And I totally take that with me through my whole entire life to this day. And nothing really, and thank God that this has happened to me, because of the fact that I can go in life now and not worry about a thing.
I think that's wonderful. And again, like I said earlier, you are such an inspiration. And after that event, the ISU passed a rule forever known as the Zayak rule, which limits the number of triple jumps a man or woman can do in his or her long program. At the time, did you feel targeted at all by this rule? And were you worried that the greatest strength of your skating, this ability to do multiple triple jumps in a long program consistently, was threatened at all?
Absolutely, because I do think that not only the 81 worlds, but the 82 worlds, and this was really only, the rule change was only done by the ISU, and it was because I think the fact that so many girls were after the 81 worlds and the 82 worlds were trying to do so many triples, or at least 2 or 3, and they were falling and missing, and they didn't want the sport to be changed into a triple jump competition. And that's why they made that rule. It was to deter girls from doing triple jumps. So that was why I think the rule was set. But to me, it was saying, okay, now Elaine, you're the world champion, but now you can't do all of your triple jumps. And it was kind of, you know, downplaying the fact that they wanted me to work on other things, which I absolutely did, and it was great. It was comforting to know that now it's maybe a little fairer for some girls that might not think I was going to beat them because they're going to do the same amount of triples as me. But I did overcome working my spins, my choreography, and it gave me time. But I do think that inevitably the best part of that rule was that it didn't work, because it made the girls do every triple in every single one, and I'm happy for that.
Well, you reached the apex of your career 2 years before the '84 Olympic Games when you won that world title. How were you able to keep yourself motivated for those 2 years leading up to Sarajevo?
It was very hard for me to have 2 more years to go. And then, of course, so much pressure and attention was drawn to me by the media, by, a lot of endorsements, commercials, just so much media attention that I didn't really focus on skating so much. And then I did go to every banquet, every function, and you know, to me, I was like, I don't know if I can last 2 more years with this. And there's too much pressure. And then on top of my parents definitely getting divorced, my coaches were getting divorced. It was like I had no one to turn to, and I didn't really enjoy skating anymore. So to me, I felt like the '83 was the worst year of my life. 17 years old, worst year of my life. But I do think I needed to go through that because when I did realize that it wasn't working, I focused on working with other people, other coaches, and I definitely regained my energy and my confidence and my desire to skate again when the 1984 year came. And it really was a great year for me, even though I didn't win the Olympics, but I definitely feel like I skated the way I wanted to. And winning the bronze medal at the Worlds was just, the icing on the cake for me.
So you talk about 1983 being a very difficult year, and it will forever be known in figure skating as really the dawn of a rivalry between Rosalind Sumners and Elaine Zayak, and the press pounced on this. Of this, the New York Times wrote, Miss Zayak was amused. She said that she didn't see why they couldn't be friendly, although it was clear that her feelings were mixed. Quote, I was the champion first, and it kind of hurts when someone takes your place. Still, I don't see why I shouldn't talk to her. But then when I've been fat or injured, that's when she would say hello. When I was at my best, she wouldn't come near me. So take us back to that time. How intense was the rivalry between Roz and yourself, and how intense was it between everyone around you?
Well, it was kind of intense, but to me, I always felt like I was the champion, always. And so to me, Rosalind only came in at 1983. And I had been there for 4 or 5 years before that, where to have somebody who never was champion and never did what I did and went through what I went through really wasn't a threat or a challenge to me. So I never really looked at her as a competitor of mine. And I always believed that she only won because of my mistakes. And that is the truth. I'll say it today, but it's just the fact that, you will let people through the door if you don't do what you should do every day. To this day, you have to be the best if you want to win. So I let her through the door, but I did always believe that I was the better skater. But also, it was good that we did, I think, bring attention to the sport because everybody always loves to have a rivalry, of course, with the Nancy and Tonya story. But it wasn't that bad. It was just that, I believe she thought she was the best and I thought I was the best. So, of course, who's going to win? That was the whole thing. And to me, I appreciate that she had the confidence to think she was the best. But, it was kind of annoying sometimes, and to me, I don't need to be bothered with anybody else. I only focused on myself and what I had to do. And I knew that that's what I was there to do at every competition I was in. So I overlooked it, but I think she was more into it than I was about the rivalry. And I think everybody else, and there was somebody told me that there's like in Las Vegas betting going on of who's going to win. And it was just crazy. And I think it was funny, but I do know that it was kind of a distraction to a lot of people. But I never really looked back. I just always looked forward, and I never worried about who I was competing against. I just knew I had to do the best that I could.
So some of the headlines, Elaine, during your career were kind of cool. I remember reading an article after the '83 National Championships from Sports Illustrated, and the headline was, Thinner is the winner, and they were talking about Roz winning that championship. During your career, did you pay attention to the headlines, what press was saying, and do you think current skaters should pay attention to the buzz?
again, thinner is the winner. I do know that a lot of people read a lot of stories, but I do think that politics did have a lot to play in that Olympics. And to me, all I wanted to do was skate great. I did. I come out of the Olympics knowing that I did skate the best I could. I trained for it. I do know that certain people didn't skate well and got a medal, but I think sometimes in life, if you don't win or you don't get what you want, there's something better in your future. And I just went with that. And knowing that I skated great, that's all I wanted. But I can't really make everyone happy and get everyone else to be on the same page with me and tell everybody, well, the school figures, there's a lot of politicking going on, and it didn't really matter. It's God's will and way of what we are in life. So I just say there's a reason why. And of course, a month later, I was the only girl at the World Championships, and I won the bronze medal. So it kind of proved to me in my life that I was still, the champion after all. And it kind of made me feel better about retiring in 1984 than to not get a medal at the Olympics.
How much of an impact do you feel that the media has on a skater's career? You were that girl from Jersey, whereas Roz was really portrayed as the Grace Kelly of the ice. So do you think the media plays an important role over a skater's career?
Definitely. I think, it's like, I think everyone has to be great and be on their toes all the time. You cannot really, right now especially, make mistakes and then expect to win. Before in the past, maybe years ago. But the ultimate champion is going to be consistent and be ready and mentally ready. Michelle Kwan was such a great champion and always prepared and always mentally on her game. If you're not these days, then you're not going to make it. So I do believe that there's a reason why the sport has changed. It's not easy, especially doing all these triple jumps. You can't make any mistakes, but it really gives a lot of people a chance to go into maybe the nationals or the worlds and know that there is a chance for me to win, and it's not political anymore. So to me, I think everything that happened, in the past has really come to this moment where it's really a lot, much more fair for the girls and the guys in the sport.
Now, obviously, not everyone is going to fit that Peggy Fleming mold in skating, and there's often talk of the ice queen image. And we see certain skaters start to censor themselves as they get to the top. Now, you obviously never did that. How do you feel about the ice queen image and the impact it's had in skating over the years? Do you think there's too much of a focus on it?
Yes, there definitely is. Like, even to this day, everybody wants, the Dorothy Hamill back. It really promotes the sport a lot, and I do think that they're even promoting Gracie Gold to win, for next year's Olympics, and she is such the mold of the queen of the ice. And I think Ashley Wagner is the same mold, like better and even greater. It's just sometimes it gets in the way of your focus. So hopefully mentally both these girls can really focus on just skating their best and become like the top two in the worlds and the Olympics, especially this year. But it definitely, is a distraction, I believe.
During our research, Dave, every single article that Dave and we read mentioned your weight, specifically to the number. I had never seen anything like that. So when did this focus on your weight begin, and where did it stem from? Was it something where your coaches were focused on your weight and then they went to the media with it? Where did it start, and why do you think the focus was on your weight as opposed to other skaters?
Well, I think it really stemmed from my coaches, like saying maybe because I didn't skate well, I missed the short, because they didn't know what to say. So they started out saying, well, I think she wasn't in shape, her weight wasn't where it was supposed to be. What were they going to say? I think it was their lack of knowledge in dealing with the media, taking the focus off of them maybe, but I do know a lot of personal issues were going on, and I really regret now thinking back that I should have just said, everyone leave me alone about the weight and not focus so much. And I never, said anything, but I do think that they were taking the blame off of themselves. But I do know that I think it started with them saying too much about weight instead of doing something to cure that problem. Instead of weighing me every single day or every other day and saying, you just have to lose weight, you have to lose weight, and not really focusing on what was the correct issue as to just train harder, push harder. And I think it made me want to gain weight because I was so aware of it. And to me, I needed the, whole weight thing let loose and not be on my shoulders. And to read it in the magazines and the newspaper, it was just overwhelming. So it was another issue of self-consciousness of, okay, now we have another issue to deal with. But I do also think that it was a heavy burden for my left foot to deal with when I'm landing the jumps. I always favored my right foot. So when I didn't skate well in 83, I do think it was the fact that, a little bit more weight would have been, a little bit too much pressure for my right foot because having half a foot.
Yeah, we've heard skaters go through such length to maintain a competitive weight that either their coaches want or that it's self-imposed. So what did you go through to achieve that weight? What was a diet like for you when you were competing?
Well, I think what happened, nothing really worked until I was 18, and it was the year of the Olympics, that I did feel I met a couple of people that were outside the skating world that really helped me, a nutritionist, to learn about food and also to get my mind off of the issue mentally about how I looked and not worry about the numbers on the scale. And it was a lot of pressure off of me, and I actually said, if I'm not going to be harassed about my weight, then I will skate. If I'm going to have to hear about it every day. So I kind of really put the boundaries on that and said, I know when I feel good on the ice and I know when I look good, then I'm going to skate well. So it was kind of me, getting to a point, working with psychologists and learning that it's not about the actual numbers of the weight and the scale. It was about how I felt on the ice and how I felt as a person. That took me to skating well.
And who was it that took you to that psychologist? Was that something that you decided that you wanted to go find a nutritionist or a psychologist?
I actually met someone that was outside of skating that said, you need to really learn about life and not worry about so much of the world of skating and what people are saying to you. And that was kind of the one reason why I thought, I'm going to get away. I went to Boston and I just actually became a normal person and took my mind off of, and I actually had a mentor that was a skater in the Olympics a long time ago. I'm not going to mention names, but it was just somebody that I really felt like went through the same thing as far as weight. And she said, once you take your mind off of it, once you say, I'm just going to train my hardest in the gym and do the best I can and not focus on the stress and what my mother or father, because every time I did lose weight and then they would say, well, you don't look like you lost weight, it would really upset me. So I had to get my mind off of that and focus on just me as a person. And at 18, you become this person that really doesn't have to listen to anybody. So that's when, and that person told me, you are your own person now. Just focus on yourself and don't listen to anyone else. And that's what I did. And I was like, this is for me. And I worked out in the gym a lot, and I had a personal trainer, and that's really what it was. And when I actually had that trainer say, you can only do so much, but you have to do it because you want to, and that's when I made it happen. And I worked out on the treadmill, the bike, the rowing machine. It was like that was something I wanted to do and achieve for myself, and it made it so much easier for me on the ice.
How important do you feel that weight is in skating versus being thin? And how important do you think that being thin is in skating?
I don't think it's a big deal now to be so thin. I don't think you have to be. I don't even think you have any energy if you're thin. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be able to skate great if you're really, really thin. To do these triple jumps, you need muscle. You need energy. I don't think anybody's going to land any triples if you are overweight. And I think these girls now, even in every sport you see on TV, There's nobody that's like a stick figure. There's nobody that's going to be that ballet dancer. To do triple jumps, you have to have muscle, you have to have strength, and that requires a lot of training and muscle. And off the ice, if you don't have any off ice training, you're not going to make it. You're not going to land triples. So I don't think it's important anymore. I don't think the weight is an issue. I don't think anybody is going to focus on that anymore.
You are a coach now, Elaine. How do you approach the topic of weight with your skaters?
I never talk about weight with any of my skaters. I don't think that's an issue. I always talk about how hard are you training off the ice? What are you eating? What did you have for breakfast? If they're not skating well, maybe it's because they're not eating right. And some of these little kids, they eat too much sugar and they don't have enough energy. It goes up and down. So you could be really thin, but if you don't have the right diet, and not dieting, if you don't have it, like the right foods in your life at an early age, you're not going to succeed because of the strength issue. You have to have a lot of strength, which requires protein and eating right. Not a lot of carbs, not a lot of fried food and pizza. And to me, I don't really ever weigh anybody. That's never going to happen. I don't think that, to me, you have to do that. If it's not going to happen with the girl and she feels overweight or she feels heavy, she'll know it. And if she doesn't want to help herself to lose weight or try to get better, then, I can only guide her and tell her, train off the ice a little more. What are you doing in your off ice workout? I always feel like do your programs a lot. It gives you a sense of, weight comes off easily when you skate over and over, even if you're not doing the whole program, but it works the whole body. It's such a great sport, but I do think to me, I've not had an issue with girls with the weight anymore.
So going back to 1983, it proved to be a very difficult year in your career. After losing nationals for the second year in a row, you had to withdraw from the World Championships during the figures. There was all sorts of speculation in the press that the injury was some sort of cover-up, and your critics and rivals pounced. What happened in Helsinki?
I think it was so many personal problems. I don't even think I should have gone to the Worlds. I think in 83 nationals, I did not really feel ready to compete. I was having my ankle taped all the time. I was doing therapy for it, but I don't think I should have gone. And then, of course, I was pressured into it. So I went feeling that I couldn't do the jumps. I couldn't hold an edge. It was really painful. But I went there, tried to do it. It didn't happen. And then I was like, I made the decision. I did the first figure. It went pretty well. The second figure, of course, was left foot. It wasn't a good figure, but I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing this. I decided, like, in my mind, I was not going to listen to anybody. Just say, just do it. Just do it. Because actually, mentally, did not trust anyone anymore at that time. I was, like, not feeling like I had any support from my parents or my coaches. So I got off the ice and I said, I'm done. I'm not doing it. And that was that. And they were shocked. I think everybody was shocked and nobody knew what to say, but I just said, I'm not doing it. And I'll deal with the consequences. And that's why I think, I did know I had another year to really be ready. And I don't think anybody should compete if they're not 100%. And so I felt like even also in those practice sessions before the figures, I did not have the strength to do the long program. I did not have really 100% on that right foot when I landed. So I didn't think the whole competition was going to go well. So if I'm not 100%, why do it? Because people don't really care if you are injured, and all they remember is how bad you skated. And I think it's important to realize that if you're not 100%, don't do it. And that's what I said to myself. I did not have my coach say, you're withdrawing. I made my own mind up and I said, I'm not doing the last figure. I'm done, over with. I think in the nationals, I should have not skated also, but it was kind of like a pressured situation and feeling like because I was a world champion, I had to do it. And in those days, nobody ever withdrew. So I felt like, you know what, this year is not a Olympic year, so I will take this year off, not compete, and be ready for nationals in the Olympics next year. So I don't really care what people thought, but I just did it because of the fact that I wasn't ready of, the injury I had.
Now, you've described the summer of 1983 as being a time of depression and self-pity after those world championships. How did you get yourself out of it in order to get yourself mentally and physically up for the Olympic Games?
It was very difficult because the fact that a lot of people already wrote me off, said I wasn't going to do anything. I think it's kind of like the Lindsey Vonn thing, I had a stress fracture, and how am I going to overcome that and be ready for the Olympics? So, of course, then that year, all of a sudden, Rosalind wins the world. So everybody's like, nobody cares about Elaine Zayak anymore. We're going to just focus on her. And that was fine. The pressure was off. But also, I knew, I came all this way to become a champion and win a medal at the Olympics. So I really struggled with that, but it was a difficult year. I really think I didn't start skating until June of that year, and then I really wasn't doing the triples until August. So I really didn't feel ready. I didn't really compete that much. So I did feel like the only time I would be ready would be in January or February, and that's when I did it, of course, at the Olympics. But I didn't really care. I overcame an injury, and to me, as long as I made it, and that's what I wanted to do, was compete in the Olympics. And if I won a medal, great.
Well, you skated so well in Sarajevo and you placed 6th. And after that event, you told the New York Times, the reason I didn't win a medal was all politics. Then speaking of the figures portion of the event where you were placed 13th, you said, that started me off on the wrong track. How could I win a medal from that point on? They knew. They put me low enough that I could not win a medal. Do you still feel this is true? And when you look back on your Olympic experience, what do you think about? What comes up?
I definitely think I was in 1981. I was, I think, 7th in figures. Okay, 1982, I was 4th in figures. The same figures, they didn't change. And then all of a sudden, 1984, I'm in 13th place. And I do know that Rosalind Sumner's won the world. They kind of, you don't go from, I don't think my figures were so bad, and I do know, looking at figures, that's where all of the things go on. And knowing that people who had terrible figures, nobody could see it. So in my mind, absolutely. And I think a lot of people in the public did not know that's what's going on. So to me, it was really devastating to know that, to put me that low. Okay, maybe 7th, 8th would have been a little bit better, but I do think it would have been a distraction to the fact that they wanted to just focus on Rosalind Sumner's. And then all of a sudden, who I'd beaten for so many years in figures is in first place after figures. So that's kind of a little bit strange to me because they knew she wasn't a strong free skater, but it all, to me was a ploy, I think, just to keep her in the top 3 because she wasn't a good free skater, not consistent. She was only in 83 worlds and not really a regular to the scene. So, of course, they didn't think she was going to skate well, and I do think that they really were focusing on Katharina Witt from East Germany to win the Olympics that year. So I think for me, I was a threat. So they had to do something. And they knew the 2 weeks that I was there for the Olympics and training, because we were the last event, I was skating perfect short and perfect long programs every single day.
So you made a rather surprising and dramatic comeback in 1994. You shocked a lot of people with how you skated. And in 1994, when you were coming back, you reflected upon your earlier career, and you told USA Today that I felt that when I lost my national championship, my life was over. I had been put down a lot for my weight. So many people were saying, you're a has-been. You're never going to amount to anything. The worst of these comments came when my father looked at me and said, look at what kind of world champion you turned out to be. So what was your relationship like with your father during that time, and what is it like now?
At 1994?
Yes, coming back.
Okay. coming back really was for a lot of reasons. I think because the fact that I did not feel that I accomplished everything I wanted to do when I ended my career. Katarina went on to do another Olympics, and I actually wanted to also, but I had contracts, I had to do shows, I had to go to the ice capades. So to me, I definitely feel like I didn't finish when I wanted to. I was forced to. So I really love skating. I love competing. And when I heard that you could reinstate, that was so motivating to me to be the first person to do something like that. And so I took advantage, knowing that watching the girls in 1993 nationals, it wasn't such a great nationals, and I did think that there wasn't really anybody that was that great. And to me, I felt like I could do what they were doing. I could do 5 triples in my program. So, and it also, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to lose weight, get myself back in shape, and be the first person, again, to do something different. And at 28 years old, who would ever think somebody could do that? And I knew in my heart that I could do that if I really wanted to. And I had to believe it. So I reinstated, not really knowing if I could do it. You had to do it in April. And then in June, the New York Times, Chicago Tribune, they were all calling me, talking about how I'm coming back. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet. Because I always thought I could say, okay, I'm like by August, maybe I'm not going to do it. But I was like kind of pushed into it. And everybody's like, oh my God, this world champion's coming back at 28. Nobody's ever done it. And I really, for the fact that I wanted women to stay in longer than 18 years old and not quit, because there has been, and I think girls are now staying in because of what I did, staying in until it's 28. Now girls are staying in until 23, 24, which I think I got better as I got older. And let me tell you, it was torturous for the fact that so many people, even my own coaches, my own father, said that I was never going to do it. Never. And I even remember my coach Peter Burrows saying to me, I was like, I lost 10 pounds. He goes, really? In which leg? Like, I just couldn't believe it. And he wasn't really coaching me, but he was somebody in my life for so many years that I was like hoping I'd get some encouragement from, and I didn't. And I just kind of embraced that, to know that this is what people really think of me, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't remembered that way. I wanted to, again, show people no matter what I do, I'm going to show that you can go back 10 years later and do better than you did in 84. So also my mentor at that time was one of the pair skaters that was at our rink, Kala Urbanski, and she was around 28 herself, and she was the national pair champion doing triple toe loops, and saying to me, Elaine, you should be doing like 5 triples right now. And I was like, you're right, I should. And I got encouragement from other skaters, so that's what helped me. Knowing that after I did my first triple, I was like, okay, if I can do that, I can do another one. And then to even try my triple loop, which I really didn't even do in the 80s, and landing that, it was just like so glorifying. And no matter whether I won or I lost, just to come back and be able to do what I did 10 years before again, it was a dream come true. The feeling I got was just incredible.
It's wonderful. And what is your relationship? Do you have a relationship with your father or your coach today?
No, I do not have any relationship really with any of them. I do feel that it's amicable. I don't think that I want in my life now to have any negativity around me. I'm guarded. I don't feel that I have any animosity towards them, but I don't really feel that I need to have anyone, especially a male figure, control or get to me. And I think if in 94 I wasn't really put in a place that I was happy, that I don't think that it's something I want to have anymore in my life. So unfortunately, I hate to say it, but my father feels the same way. I haven't talked to him in many years, but it's something that I think he has issues with. He doesn't know how to acknowledge me as a daughter. It's always been a skater. He's always looked at me as such. So to me, I really don't blame him, but that's all he knew. But I can't live my life with somebody just thinking of me as a skater. I want them to appreciate me as a person, especially my father, as a daughter. And so to this day, I haven't gotten that. So that's the reason why, things haven't worked out, not the way I want them to be worked out. But I do think it's for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I used a lot of the energy that I felt I needed in my life when I went out there and I was nervous. I took a lot of that energy and used it so I wasn't really scared anymore. And I said, I'm going to do this because I'm not going to let people talk bad about me. And it all came back to the same thing with my childhood. I'm not going to let anybody look at me in a different way. I wanted to show people that I could do it. So when the negativity and the fear came in, I was like, no, don't let it. So it worked to my favor. And I do think in life things happen for a reason.
I love that. I think that's perfect. So in 94, that is an infamous national championship because of the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. And I think so many people are probably wondering, as a competitor in that event, where were you when the attack took place? And at the time, did you suspect that Tonya Harding had anything to do with it?
I love talking about this. This is one of my favorite moments of my comeback because what a year I chose to come back. And I was with my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, and he was never really introduced to the skating world too much. His sister skated but never made it to that high of a level. That's how we met. And I wanted him to see me in a very high level of skating. So that was one of the reasons I came back also. He was very inspiring to me. So he was with me carrying my bags to the locker room for my warm-up. And we were in Group C. And Tonya was in Group A and Nancy was in Group B. So I was in C. You always go there at least like 20 minutes, 30 minutes before your practice. And it just so happens that when Nancy got hit, it was at the end of her practice, and it was about 20 minutes prior to my practice. And we see people screaming, and we hear it, and John was like, why are these people running around, like running past? We really now think like the guy who did it was running right past us, and we didn't know it. But we get the question all the time, like, why didn't you get the guy? But we never thought, this would be somebody who get downstairs into the practice arena. But all I kept thinking was, oh my God, why is Nancy crying like so bad? Like, did she fall and get, hurt? We didn't think of it as anything else. But then I went into the locker room, and then I never really knew. I had just come back. So I'm 28 and I'm in a room with like 16, 17, 18-year-olds saying, I think Tonya Harding did it. She's really the one. I'm like, really? Everybody knew it. And I was like, you kidding me, really? And they're like, yes, you did it. Somebody hit Nancy, and it has to be Tonya or somebody. And I was like, it's kind of like, bringing back the memories of Rosalind. You have these thoughts. Like, you would love to see them not in the competition. It would be so easy. But never would I ever put a hit on. But these girls really in 94 knew what was going on. And so to me, it was like unbelievable. And I couldn't even practice. I went out for my practice and I was like, oh my God, I'm next. I thought, okay, I'm the world champion, national champion, and somebody's putting it out. So I couldn't even jump. I couldn't even spin. I was like, I don't even want to get out here because nobody knew who did it. So it was just incredible. The whole thing, the whole year coming back was not only for the craziness that went on, and then I had to do interviews about it and sharing the ice in the warm up with her, in the long program. It was very, enduring, but scary at some points because she is a special person that I've never seen in the sport.
I love special. She's a special person.
Like, we were on Maury Povich. me and Mark Mitchell, and he was like, Elaine, you're not going to say anything bad because if you do, she's coming after you. And I'm like, I didn't even think, like, I'm not going to say anything bad, but, like, she does come down the ice like she's out for blood. Like, she's intimidating. And, even the guys were thinking, like, I'm not going to say anything bad because she might put a hit on me. It was kind of comical, but I couldn't believe the way people were thinking.
That is so crazy. It's so, I just love hearing about this because so many people, myself included, we got into the sport at that time, and we don't know, like Tonya, because she was out of the sport after. She does sound very special. So when you look back on your comeback in '94, how does that compare to winning your national and your world title?
I have to say, I loved winning my worlds. I loved winning my nationals, but I have to say, I had the most joy coming back, getting 2 standing ovations in 1994, skating a clean short and a clean long. I absolutely cannot tell you the feeling I had as a person, as a ex-champion, the glory that I had with the audience, with the emotional desire to prove to people at 28 you can do what it was more that was so gratifying than to get a medal wrapped around your neck. But I did also get a medal. I didn't even know because when I was in the 80s, you didn't get 4th place medal. And then I come back in 94, they're like, get ready, you're getting a medal. I'm like, oh, I got the pewter medal. I didn't even know they had that. And I had 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I'm like, this completes my collection. I had every single medal. To me, it was just so special. I can't tell you. If anybody ever wants to come back, do it because it's so gratifying whether you win or not.
I love that pewter medal. I have co-hosts that threw theirs out in disgust.
Hey!
But,
That's a secret. It's somewhere in the
the Radex pin on a special chain.
I
That sterling silver Radex pin. All the others are gold, but that one is special to me. I put it on a special necklace, and it really, it does mean a lot. And then to have this year have Jimmy Ma get the pewter medal, it brings back. It's not only the fact that they played after the award ceremony this year. We are the champion, and they all are. To be the top 4 in the country is incredible, and there's only a very select few that do that. And that meant the world to him, even if he never medals again. But to get that 4th place, it was just, he was in awe of, like, just the whole audience, the whole scene of being on the podium and being in that special place.
so, Elaine, let's talk about your jumping for a second. You were performing triple loop better than ever at age 28. There were stories that you were working on putting triple flip into the program. There have been articles that you landed triple axels as a kid. What were you capable of in practice? Did you work on triple triples? Could you do triple lutz? What were you doing throughout different points in your career? Did you do those triple axels?
Yes, I definitely did do the triple axel way before everybody else. It was something that I did in the 1980 Lake Placid training camp with Carlo Fossi being there. It was with Robin Cousins being there. We had Scott Hamilton. 1980 summer, I was junior national champion, and junior world champion. So I got to go to this training camp, and I wanted to show off again. And I was working on triple axels in that summer with Peter Burrows, and I actually had because I had a really good timing on the double axel. I didn't do it on a curve. I did it on a straight line. I was always good doing it in a small piece of ice, not too fast, but I could rotate really well. So we worked on that, and I even had a major accident where I fell on my eye, and right on the brow of my eye, I didn't split it open, but the whole entire eye swelled up like a boxer, and that was like so scary to me. So I didn't really work on them that much. But then, my coach was bragging that I could do it, and people were like, let me see it. So I started doing them, and I would do them like you see people doing with a little cheat on it, and a lot of the times I would land them. I did them so much that people were like, you should put this in the program. But in those days, nobody did that. But I definitely, now thinking back, maybe I should have showed that off, but you never know. Like, would it be something like it would hinder me because then people would expect it all the time? And I was 14 when I did it. So to me, I decided, you know what? I don't need it. Don't work on it. I have to improve on other things. And I worked on the triple loop and the triple flip, but never did I really like the Lutz. It was just something that didn't feel comfortable for me. And I don't think like it was something that really was something I needed. So I worked on triple flip actually only in 1994 when I was coming back to see, because the triple loop was so easy for me and I was stronger than ever. So I did land a couple triple flips, but it wasn't something that I really felt comfortable with. And I thought, you know what, if I could do triple loop in the short so easily, what do I need to do triple flip for? It wasn't, I was using also, I think now in this day and age, the new boots and the new blades that they have are something that is helping these girls jump so well. I stuck with my same boots and my same blades from 10 years, like not the same blades, but they weren't so much different. Like I didn't get the Paramounts. I just went with pattern 99. So I don't think I had the real power and the pop that I wanted for those jumps. And I actually felt like just stick with what you know and be confident with that. Not try anything, too risky. Because who knows, when you get out under pressure, not competing in 10 years, I don't want to have to worry about a triple flip. So it was stressful enough to do a triple loop in the short program, first jump, under pressure. But that's all I wanted to really worry about, and skating clean.
Did you ever try a triple triple?
Absolutely. I could do a triple toe, triple toe wally. I did a triple toe loop off of everything. It was just, to me, that second triple toe loop was always something that was so tiny and so little. And like in 1981, if you watch the Worlds, you'll see I did the double axel triple toe. It was something that was easy, but yet something that I, again, didn't get that pop from. I don't think that it was good enough to really put in, but we did in 81 just to see how it would go because I didn't have anything to lose. But it wasn't really that great, that special. And it was something I needed a tremendous amount of speed for. And I just felt like I did the next year triple toe wally, turn, triple toe loop. In those days, they didn't really, again, think about it. I did double flip, triple toe in the short, double Lutz, triple toe. It wasn't like anybody asked for me to do that. So, of course, I never tried it. But if I needed to do triple toe, I know that feeling. I know maybe I should have tried it. Maybe that would have been great. But, of course, it wasn't a good second triple. I'll say that.
Now, Elaine, you began your coaching career at Sportorama alongside the boards with your coaches Peter Burrows and Marilyn Gelderman, yet you wound up moving to the Ice House to break out onto your own. What happened when you were coaching alongside your old coaches?
It's funny that you asked that question, but I don't think it was something that was just about the coaching. I think it was also stemming from the emotional problems psychologically that I didn't have the confidence that I wanted from Peter. It was more so that he was dealing with a lot. It was also after 94, we had some issues financially, what I was going to do with Goodwill Games. So we were kind of breaking up way before then. And I felt like I had this rink that was in New Jersey right around the corner from my house. And they wanted me there. And I was kind of fearful just to be on my own. But I said, you know what, again, I got to try it. And knowing that he didn't really want me there, which I kind of was not really wanting to be under anyone. I know that I can do everything on my own. So it was challenging for me, but I actually am so glad that I made that choice and I did something again that I was fearful for, but in the long run, it paid off. And I do feel to this day, I thank them for making me realize what my choices should be. I don't blame them, but I do think that had I not gone through those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. for the fact that I'm very confident in myself and in my life, and I talk about whatever I want to, and I don't hold back. And I also can take my lessons that I've learned from coaching with them or other coaches, good and bad, whatever it is, that what made me a champion. You use those tools in life, and that's why I think it works for me more so than maybe a lot of other people. And I really wish that maybe other national women's champions, like, or world champions, like Debbie Thomas, of course. I love her. She went on to become a great doctor. But I do think, like, I wish maybe, there would be more champions that could mentor some of these skaters, because I think it's important for them to realize when you're down and out that we've been there. We've all been there and done it, and we've overcame it.
Now, there's always a feeling in skating that doomsday is right around the corner. When after you won, the Zayak rule was put in place when all those girls were trying those triple jumps. And after Roz won Worlds, she said that she changed the sport back to artistry. When Tara Lipinski came along, the sport was being ruined by an era of jumping beans. How do you feel about the direction that the sport is currently headed?
I do like it and I don't like it, but I definitely like it better than it was absolutely 10 years ago. I don't think it's got to still change in a lot of different ways, because there's no freedom of people really doing whatever they want to do. You kind of have to do these spins the way they tell you to do them. There's no freedom. Like when I watched Robin Cousins win the Olympic gold medal, he was just he didn't have to do every single jump and triple in the book, and he may have missed one, but he was just so enjoyable to watch. He had such a freedom about him. He could dance. He could just do whatever he wanted to. He wasn't told, oh, I have to do this, I have to do a spiral, I have to do this spin, I have to hold this. So there's not much time for the girls to be able to do what they want to do in a program. It's kind of systematic, and I don't like that part about it, because I would like to have the freedom to be able to do the things that I want to do and not be told, well, that doesn't mean anything. I remember Robin Cousins just doing a huge open axel, delayed axel, when these guys are doing triples all over the place. It was so beautiful that you can't do that anymore. You can't be yourself. Like even in your footwork, you have to have a certain number of steps, a certain number of brackets and counters. And so there's not enough time to really be yourself and show your actual emotion maybe, or character. It's very difficult to let yourself go, especially like I always did at the end of my program. I could be happy, but God forbid you miss a spin at the end. That's like missing a triple jump, or you get too. I think that's what's missing in the sport right now, is the emotion of a person that really wants to be themselves, because they're concentrating all the way through about every single little detail of everything. So that's what I miss. I hope there could be more freedom and less technical stuff that are for points.
I think many people probably agree with you, Elaine. And this has been such a fun interview. You've really just shared so much with us. We really appreciate it. And we always end our interviews on a fun note. So what Dave and I are going to do, we're going to mention the name of someone in the skating world, and we want you to tell us the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay.
Ready? I'm going to start with Dick Button.
I'm just going to say one word, right?
Whatever you want to say. If it's multiple words, that's fine too. Just the first
Okay,
stuff
so
that comes to your
start
mind.
over. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to say Dick Button.
Icon.
Peggy Fleming.
Beautiful.
Denise Spielman.
Unbelievable spinner.
Scott Hamilton.
My mentor.
Rosalind Sumners.
A good friend.
Are you guys friends today after all of that you went through?
Actually, we do send each other Christmas cards.
Oh.
And when we do see each other from time to time at nationals, we talk about, life, not about skating, what happened when. But yeah, we're definitely, friendly.
Okay. Priscilla Hill.
Unbelievable competitor, great competitor.
How about Tiffany Chin?
different type of competitor, not friendly to me, but different. Great skater.
Carlo Fassi.
Icon of the sport. Loved him and wish I could have been taught by him.
How about Debbie Thomas?
Unbelievable. Icon of the sport. I wish she was my doctor.
And our final skater, Katarina Witt.
A mentor in so many ways on and off the ice. Definitely perfect person that should have won both Olympic Games. So grateful to have known her and skated with her.
This has been so much fun, Elaine. Thank you for spending so much time with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for
Thank you for thinking of me, Jenny and David. You're so wonderful. Good luck. I think you guys should be on like Good Morning America or the Today Show. You do a great job.
Thank you. And you're going to help so many people with everything that you've talked about today. So many skaters. I'm sure you're a wonderful coach and a wonderful mentor. So thank you for that.
We'd obviously like to thank Elaine Zayak for all of her time and insight today. I really got such a spirit of determination for her. I feel really motivated to go work out in the gym and get stuff done like Elaine would on the ice in all of her long programs. So I definitely feel that fighting Jersey spirit today from this interview.
I agree. I think Elaine is she's someone who has overcome so much, obviously, in her life on and off the ice. And she just seems like she's probably a great coach, a really great motivator, and somebody that I think we can all learn stuff from, just in terms of finding your inner strength and overcoming any sort of adversity that life could throw your way. It was a really fun interview.
Yeah, she's definitely tough as nails. So we'd like to thank all of you for listening to our interview with Elaine Zayak, and we hope that you really got something out of it and learned something from it today. So as always, we'd like to thank Kevin Kwasniewski for our graphics. Thank all of you for tuning in. And as always, we'd like to remind you to hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.